Hey guys, welcome back to Cattle Call, and I get to sit down with the absolutely beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl, Lynnde Hall.
Hey.
Today I just wanted to hang out a little bit, just in a safe space. We're going to talk about relationships and love, but I wanted to start out mainly just letting everybody know who you are, Lynnde, and where you come from and things like that, and who you were even as a young girl, and how that connects with the Western community.
The other half of my family on my dad's side, they moved to Texas from New Mexico, but I live with my parents in New Mexico.
In Lubbock?
No, me and Tate live together.
Okay.
You moved from Florida, maybe moved from me, so.
Okay, well we'll get into that in a little bit. We'll talk about you and Tate. I want to know how you kind of connected the Western, when did you get into the Western content space?
Just a bunch of cowboys. So I always grew up around it, but I didn't really start getting into it until after I graduated high school. Because, where I came from, there's not a lot of rodeo that goes on, there's not any of that. But once I graduated, I kind of started getting into it, and then kind of a video popped off on TikTok, and I was like, okay, this is what I do now.
Yeah. So when did you start TikTok? What year?
I was there when it was Musical.ly.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because the pandemic, it seemed like a lot.
That's when it started.
People,
yeah, I didn't connect that. Yeah, the pandemic was when it started.
People just kind of started to blow up. You know, because everybody's
Everybody's
on their phones. Yeah. How do you feel? How has it been being part of the influencer crowd? I know the reason why I asked that is because you did a video, I don't know how long ago it's been, but where you talk about not everybody sees what you see. And I believe that too, so I'm asking.
Absolutely. I think a lot of that has to do with, I think Western fashion just in general is a really popular thing.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be frowned upon, honestly. Rodeo kids got made fun of and things like that, and then it turned into Western fashion. A lot of people stuck to it, but I really think just a lot of people aren't very kind, and I think they focus more on just the fashion and drama aspect than they do of ag and worrying about that kind of stuff. But a lot of them just, I guess I shouldn't say a lot of them, but a lot of my friends are really great people. But when it comes down to just being kind, they're just not very kind.
Yeah.
They put on a front for it a lot of the time.
Yeah. Is there some girls that you feel, or you can name them, your good friends that you just they're your ride or dies and the people that's always been around you?
I don't really have a lot of ride or dies. I have a couple, but when it comes to the Western industry, Elva is a great example for a lot of people. And I think her in general, just the way she supports ag and she shows what she does and things like that. I think Elva is the definition of a true Western influencer.
Yeah.
Because she does fashion and things like that, but at the end of the day, she is what she is.
Yeah. She's a
good one.
Country rodeo girl.
I haven't talked to her in a while, so if you're watching this, Elva, I miss you.
What is some of the biggest lessons when you were growing up that you feel like your parents taught you, that you kind of carry with you now?
Who truly taught me to be independent from a very young age. And at the time I kind of hated her for it because I was so young, and I'm like, you're my mom, you're supposed to do this stuff for me. But looking back, I'm so glad that my mom was kind of hard on me in being independent, because there's a lot of things that I do for myself that not a lot of other girls can.
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of falls into my relationship too, because I feel like sometimes I just want to do it myself, and Tate's the man, and I'm he's like, I can do it. And I'm like, no, just let me do it. I'm a big girl. So that, and then, but my dad's always been really important in my life. He's always been there for me and taught me just, the basics, be kind, humble. And I think I got the best of both worlds with both my parents, especially them being divorced. They divorced when I was 2. So I never got to see my parents together. It was just, I dealt with one and then had the other. So that was rough.
Yeah, and they was in New Mexico, but they're together.
Yeah, my mom lives in the next town over, so it's just about a 15-minute drive. But I was always back and forth every other weekend.
Yeah. So, well, A lot of people do that. A lot of people deal with that.
I don't wish it on anybody.
Yeah, I don't either.
No,
But
especially with divorced kids when they get older. Like having your parents split up at an older age, I can only imagine.
how old were your parents when they did? I mean, did they get married young or?
I didn't really ask a lot about that. I do know. I think they were right about 30 when they got divorced. 30.
The reason why I ask is sometimes when you get married young, you kind of change and evolve, or you kind of rush into things, and then you realize that maybe this isn't what I want. I just kind of was wondering.
No, they weren't very young. I know. I think my dad said he was about 23.
Okay.
And then my mom had me at 29, and then.
Do you feel like that affects you in any way now?
I do.
About relationships?
I've always been very, on the topic of divorced children, because I don't think a lot of people will put it into a perspective of how much it can affect somebody. Because even when I try to tell Tate about it, it's hard. Because I have four separate families. He just has two. He has his mom and his dad, and I have step-parents, step-siblings, and all of that. And I think the one thing that was really hard for me was not ever seeing my parents together. That was the hardest thing for me, because those are two people I love the most.
And that dynamic of how they communicate with each other. Yeah.
And it wasn't very good growing up with divorced parents, just for the sole fact of they were both very negative towards each other. And so I heard all the bad things about my dad, and then I heard all the bad things about my mom. And so then I had these two perspectives of my parents that I loved so much. And I think that was one thing that really bothered me the most. You
talking about it can give perspective for parents that are going through that right now, because I think at the end of the day you can have your issues, but you definitely need to keep your child out of that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is, and I've always told people that I know that are getting a divorce and they have a young child, I just always stress to them, do not talk negatively about your ex-spouse, or because at the end of the day, my mom's telling you, well, your dad's this and your dad's that, and my dad's telling me that about my mom, but I'm I'm half of both of you. So what does that tell me?
And they're good to you. Yeah. They're very good to you, so all you see is how good they are to you.
Yeah. I would always think when my mom would say, oh, you're acting just like your dad. I'm like, well, I'm half of you, so
that's right.
Like that.
That's right. I would act up, my mom would say, quit acting like your dad. But, I mean, they've been together forever, but that's just how you do it.
Yeah.
What do you think, say in the last year, the growth of the Western community, what do you think about that? Do you think that's a good thing? Even fashion-wise with Louis Vuitton and Ralph Lauren, them kind of jumping on board, and everybody from Beyonce to, Madonna, whoever, to, growing up in the rodeo world and country world, a stigma of true cowboys, real cowgirls, to people trying to dress up or pretend that they are, whatever. And I think if people are authentically wanting to learn more about it and be part of that world.
If I want to dress up exactly how I am right now and show up to a rodeo, okay. I'll hop on a horse and ride, and I'll show you I can ride and have a good seat. We can argue about it another day, but I just have fun. Who cares? Who cares?
I believe that too. I think that's good. But I get it with the older cowboys, how they feel about things. They're just kind of old school, older generation.
Which I love. I love older generation, but they've never been subjected to anything like this.
No.
That's all they've ever known. So to them, I can see it being a little different.
Yeah.
But for us, it's just Western fashion.
Yeah. What do you think, Western fashion now, the aesthetics? What are you really loving right now?
Honestly, I'm really loving just the neutral but vintage look. I'm over the rhinestones. I'm over a lot of the colors, per se. I don't know. I know Neon Wrangler. She's one of my really good friends. She's the only one that can
get
pull
away
off
with it.
the neon. I had this conversation with one of my friends the other day, and I was like, she's the only one that can pull off the neon. That is her signature look, and I love that. But she makes it look good.
Yeah.
Me, I couldn't pull that off, but
I've seen her and she can do it good.
She's a good person. I love her.
What is some places that you can possibly name off right now that you think is such a good place to shop right now?
I literally was just on live this morning. Everyone's like, "Where are you getting your stuff?" And I'm like, "Target."
Because I think you can take, if you've got that in you,
Mm-hmm.
you can take about anything, add
Put
a
it
key,
together.
start putting stuff together.
And that's really all it is. It's just a matter of what can you put together. And I
Mhm.
think people focus too much on the aesthetics of what it is right now. Just put together whatever. If you think it looks good, wear it. You know?
Yeah. Okay. So let's switch gears. I want to ask you about, I want to talk about relationships, but I want to ask you first, friendship wise, do you think it's important, or do you even do you see it the same as far as like red flags in friendships to red flags in relationships? You know how you can just kind of go into a good friendship with a female or whatever, and then you kind of dismiss maybe her red flags because you're not in a relationship. Yeah. But do you think it's important to know the red flags in all aspects?
Absolutely. Friendships determine. I've always said who you hang around with is the kind of person you are.
Red flags in a guy. Like, what is some of the top things that you, right off the top, that you're like, that is a no-go for me?
I'm very good at reading people, and I feel like right off the bat I can kind of tell the kind of person you are, especially if we're around a group of people, and then I get you by yourself, and if I'm like, oh, that's a different person that I just met 15 minutes ago, I'm always down to give someone the benefit of the doubt, but, I mean, if you prove me wrong the second time, no.
What do you feel like, you know what kryptonite is, right? Like Superman had a kryptonite. What do you feel like that is? What is that weakness when it does come to a guy that you feel like you kind of like, oh, okay, you got me?
You don't have to be 100% a man all the time. Like, be soft with me, and I love a man that can just be a man.
Yeah.
Be there for me, just take care of me, and
Your
let
dad,
me let out my femininity. You know what I mean?
yeah. Is your dad a masculine type dude? Like, is he a man?
Oh, absolutely.
Man.
Like, that's what I've always looked for. Like, I want to look for a man that's like my dad, but not exactly my dad. But my dad's a very hardworking, always using his hands, wants to do it himself, and that's kind of how Tate is. Tate just takes it upon himself and gets everything done, and I just sit back and do it.
You can be feminine when they're masculine.
Yes.
And you don't have to step up and
Yes.
do the masculine role. Then you,
Yeah.
So, how did you and Tate meet?
It actually, I commented on one of his TikToks a long time ago, and I just said, excuse my language, I just said, okay, fine ass. And he commented back on mine, and then I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna message him. And so, got his number and everything, and then the rest is history.
Do you usually ever message
No,
a guy?
and that's literally what we were talking about. I said, that's never been like my thing. Like, I'm never the one to shoot my shot, because I'm just not like that. Like, you can shoot your shot at me, but I'm probably gonna turn it down.
Yeah.
But he was just, I don't know, like, we had followed each other on social media for a while, and I finally was just like, you know what, I texted one of my girlfriends, I was like, I'm gonna comment on his post, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I did, and then we ended up making plans, we met in Fort Worth, and yeah, finished with history.
So, how long have you guys been dating?
That's where we always get, like, mixed up, is because we started to get really serious, like, in August. But his whole thing was he was never gonna, like, ask me to be his girlfriend until we were with each other for the next time. Because he was like, I'm not gonna ask you over the phone, I'm not gonna text you, like, that's not how I'm gonna ask you out. So I didn't end up seeing him until October. So we always go back and forth, should we count August or should we count October? Because, I mean, there's a big time difference in between those two. So
Yeah.
I don't know, I'd say we're going on 9 months, 10 months.
Okay. So did you go to Florida some? Did he come here?
I did. We met in Fort Worth for the first time. It was September, and then October I saw him, and then November we had a wedding that I went to. So I've been down there twice since we first met, and then October he came down and met all my family, and got to see good old New Mexico.
Yeah. So did he fit in pretty good?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
He and all my in-laws and cousins and everybody, they get along so well, because he's not really like into the rodeo, but he's a good country boy. I mean, he hunts, fish, everything you can think of, and that's what a lot of my cousin-in-laws, whatever, That's what they're all into. And my cousin, he went and worked with my cousin for a little while, putting bids together, but they all get along so well.
And that, do you feel like that's important?
I think that's
when
so
your
important.
family is supportive of who you're with.
Absolutely. Like, even my past relationships, I've never seen my dad connect with someone the way he does with Tate. And I was so nervous about my dad meeting Tate because my dad's very good at reading people. Like, off the bat, he'll just straight up say no. Like, absolutely not. And he met Tate, and they got along so well. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you, Jesus. And yeah, they get along so well. They are the exact same person. It kind of freaks me out sometimes.
Well, it looks like you found your dad. That's
all
okay.
over.
That's good.
All
Most
over
girls
again.
go after their dad.
Yeah.
I mean, go after a guy that has the attributes at least, you know, of a guy.
They're like two
your
little
dad.
peas in a pod. It's so funny. This morning they were actually sending each other videos back and forth with snap filters, and I was like, my hands are full.
So how is Tate with his family? Is he very close with his family?
Oh yeah, he's a big family guy. He's very family oriented, and that's also something that I look for in a man. I need someone who's tight-knit with their family, you know? And I think that does kind of make it hard, especially us being so far away. He's so far from his family, but he's very close with them. He's definitely a mama's boy.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there's something to that too. I think you can kind of look at a guy and if he has a great relationship and respects his mom, then he's going to have a lot of love and respect and admiration probably for the girl he's with.
Yeah, and I can say, I know there's like a stigma around mama's boys that sometimes the moms can be overbearing and stuff like that, but his mom has never been anything like that. If anything, if I have an issue, I call her and I'm like, hey girl, we got to figure this out. I need your help. And she's always there for me, and she's the kind of mom that you would want.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. That helps you out in the long run. What do you feel like dating in this generation has been like? Like
a mess.
A mess.
I think social media is the biggest downfall.
Yeah. Do you feel like being a couple that has social media and then you show a little bit of your life? You're not showing. You just show the highlight or a good time or let's do this and kind of set it up or whatever. And then people want to judge that based on those little clips. How do you feel about that?
Being with someone who hasn't, it's always going to be an issue. Well, like, you're on social media for this and you do that and nitpick everything. And it's like, you just don't get it because you're not on it. But with Tate, it's not like that at all. Like, we both, honestly, what everybody sees is literally how we are with each other every single day. Like, we don't set the phone up and say, okay, well, you're going to say this and I'm going to say that. Like, I set the phone up and we both just, okay.
Yeah.
Like, there's never, social media has never really gotten in the way of anything. So.
And that's good too.
Yeah.
You give a different aspect to it because sometimes it is tough to have one or the other, but the other aspect is for them to be relatable to you and understand I have to do this and I need to post and this is my job and this is a brand I need to do. But I also think it comes down to the guy and him being understanding. And also, do you feel like Tate is a person that is accepting of the dreams you have for your life and things like that?
Oh, he's literally my number one cheerleader. Like, he's always in the back just, like, supporting me in everything I do, which I'm so grateful for because, like I said, there's a lot of guys who, if their girlfriend is doing this, they'd be like, no, I don't care. And that's one thing that I do have to say I love about him is he is so supportive of me and everything I do. He would go to the moon and back a million times for me.
Yeah. Have you and Tate figured out your guys' love language? And do you know what I mean by love language when I say that? Okay.
I know my love language. I'm more of a quality time kind of girl and like a little bit of physical touch, but he's honestly the same way. And I think that's kind of good that we're both in the same love language. But I know if anybody saw my recent TikToks, his main love language is food.
That's what I noticed about him because I know we discussed this right before, but I didn't know who Tate was, and I did a deep dive for about 45 minutes on Tate. And what I really noticed about him was he loves food, and he's with this other guy that's his friend, and they eat food. What's his name?
Caden.
And they literally, even that guy loves to eat, and they make me hungry when I watch them. I want to eat whatever they're eating and try.
Just recently, when we were in Florida, we went down there to go surprise Caden because he hadn't seen Tate in a while since he moved. And I swear all we did was eat. Like all the time, burgers, Chick-fil-A, like weird DoorDash and sushi. Like the amount of money we spent on food should be a crime. Like,
you guys should literally just do food content because that would like go. Like I like to watch people eat. It's weird, I guess other people do too.
I don't think Tate likes it as much because he can't stand smacking. Like I literally just the other day I ate my chips in the kitchen when he was in the living room because I was like, I know he's gonna tell me I can hear you. So he's not much of a food watcher person, but I am. I like watching people do that, especially like the Korean foods. Those are my favorite.
Well, that his friend, he does smack a lot. He's a smack, but he makes you want to eat whatever he's eating too, though.
He doesn't play when it comes to his food at all.
Yeah, that's cute. I've seen where you had got him a whole cheesecake because he loved a cheesecake or something. Where's it from? From
Cheesecake Factory.
Okay.
We had just had lunch with my grandparents, and I said, I always say after I eat, I need something sweet. And he said cheesecake, and I was like, okay, let's go get one. And so I ordered it. First of all, I didn't know Cheesecake Factory charged you $11 for a slice of cheesecake.
That's crazy.
So when I bought the whole cheesecake, I was like, good Lord, I'm spending like $40 on a cheesecake. But yeah, he was panties in the wallet because I got one slice and not 5. And even on our way over here, he asked me, he's like, oh my gosh, we left some of that cheesecake in the fridge. Do you think it's going to be good when we get back? I'm like, I'm sure we can just go buy some more.
Well, no, I love to watch that. And I that's one thing I really noticed about him, and even you too, with the food. And that he annoys you a little bit. Like he's always filming you, and he like gets a kick out of like annoying you.
He does. He loves it, and I feel like people don't understand how loud he is in public. Like, on a video, you just don't get it. But, like, even the airport videos, sometimes I just want to grab him by the neck and just say, shut up. Like, I get so embarrassed, and I think that's where, like, we level each other out.
Yeah.
Is, like, even, like, I've noticed now, like, in public, I'm not as embarrassed to, like, say or do things, but just because of him. But, no, he loves to embarrass me.
That's good, because it pulls stuff out of you that you maybe didn't know was in there, or that you needed to loosen up about.
Like like growing up, like I didn't like being in big crowds. I didn't like all the attention on me. Like I had a panic attack one time because my dad made me go in the gas station by myself. I was like, Dad, please, like verge of tears. And Tate definitely brought that out of me. Like got me to be more of an extrovert, like more talkative and things like that. So I love that about him.
That's good. If he could read your mind, what would it say? Say like in a scenario.
Where's my ring?
Oh, okay. So that was a future question I had for you, but where do you guys see yourself like a little, a year or so from now? Like let me ask you this. Do you date to just kind of have fun and see where it goes, or are you dating for a future situation?
For a future situation. Yeah. I would never waste my time or somebody else's time if I don't see myself with you. And we've had that conversation, and now especially, like, that it's getting closer to that, I mean, he's 22 hours from his family. We're only an hour and a half from mine, so it's kind of like, are we gonna move? Like, what do we want to do?
Yeah.
Because Florida's a very beautiful place. I would not mind moving there. I think it's very beautiful, and I definitely think it's a land of opportunity. And I'm not opposed to it at all, but I need to go first.
Hard to do.
Florida, if that's where he's from, what is your take on, like, he's had past relationships, obviously. So is a lot of the people from where he's from?
Yeah.
What's your take on that? Does that bother you in any way? Like you would be around those people?
No, not really. Like, as I said, like, I'm only going to be in a situation I put myself in. So as long as I avoid any of that, which he would never put me in that position, I would never put him in that position. And we're both, like, attached to each other's hip. So
yeah,
there would never really be an issue.
I'm going to just say this, and he's not here, and I would have loved to have met him, but you said he had some stuff he was helping your family with. But, and if he was here, I'd tell him this. But he has, like, a really fun personality, but there is a little bit, I don't know if it's because of my own self, he's a little intimidating. Do you feel that? Like, he's so flamboyant or over the
Very
top.
confident.
Yeah, so confident that you're like, woo, like.
Yeah, when I first met him, like, we had FaceTimed, obviously, before we actually met and everything. We FaceTimed all the time. And he was always so goofy and everything. But then there was times I was like, I am kind of intimidated. Like, and I've never been intimidated by a man, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot believe I just admitted that on camera. I was like, I'm nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And my cousin was with me when we were in Fort Worth, and I was really like peeking out the window, and like looking to see where he's at. I'm like, oh my gosh, is he here? And he stepped out of the car, and I was like, why am I so nervous? I had butterflies, obviously, just because I was meeting him, but part of me was like, I don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Like, he can be intimidating, but he's a big old teddy bear. Don't let him fool y'all.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see a little bit of that with you and him and y'all's videos,
Mm-hmm.
how much, even how he like looks at you and stares at you when you don't even know. Like, or maybe, I'm sure when you look back at your videos, you're noticing he is, but I've noticed like how he just like almost can stare like a hole through you. Like he's really just admiring or something.
Even when he's not admiring me, he's like,
Okay, we're good.
Do you ever go, why are you staring at me? Stop.
I'll turn off, I'm like, what? And he's like, what? We just sit there.
Admire your beauty. That's cute though. What are some of the little things, like being in a relationship that you're in right now, that you feel like just really brighten your day? Like, even the audience listening, like, what can people do with their partners that they may not think this is not going to matter, but the little things that you feel like really matter that he does for you, or maybe you do for him, that really just set the day?
I think little things can boil down to love language too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even little things of like him just kissing me goodnight. I'm like, oh, that makes me feel so good. But I mean, even the bigger things, like something as little as like us going on a lunch date. Like, we have it planned out. Like, usually on Fridays we'll like go get lunch together or go watch a movie, and then Mondays we go on coffee dates. And it's just like little things like that that I look forward to. And it honestly, it's the little things that matter. Because if I didn't have those little things, I'd probably just be like, well, what are we doing?
My husband could just tuck my hair behind my ear or kiss me on the forehead, and I'm good. I'm melted for the rest of the day. I'm good.
That's what me and my girlfriends talk about sometimes too, is I'm like, that's one thing that I even had this conversation with Tate last night about. He is so affectionate, and I think just past relationship wise, I never really had that. And that is just like my whole world. Like, I just love it. Like, he is so affectionate. He's always hugging me, kissing me, like telling me I look pretty.
Affirmation is important on both ends, I think, guys and girls, but the affirmation that you can get, even, I told my husband, this is the sexiest thing for a guy to notice. This is when they go, your makeup looks just like so good today. Like, you wouldn't think a guy would notice that, but if they do notice how you might have put a little bit extra, like a cuter lipstick or whatever you were trying, and they notice, it means the world.
Yeah, little things.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's so affectionate, and I think that's my favorite thing. Like, I told him last night, and I was like, are you mad at me or what? And he was like, why? Because I haven't loved on you all day? And I was like, yes. So I was like, I feel like you're mad at me. And he was like, no. He was like, we've just been busy.
Yes.
So I have to tell myself he's not mad. We're just busy.
Because when you're used to it.
Yes, that's what I told him. I said, you're always all over me. And I was like, I said, we only kissed like 8 times today. And he was like, did you just hit yourself? And I was like, yeah, that's not even a lot.
What would you give younger girls, like, that are looking at you or looking up to you and watching you guys as a couple on social media? What advice could you give them if they're looking, they're young, like looking for a relationship?
Honestly, my biggest thing, you have to be a God-fearing man. Because if you don't have God in the center of your relationship, you ain't gonna have anything. And I think that's the biggest thing, is I prayed for somebody that had a good relationship with God and was a man and had a good heart. And Tate is everything that I ever prayed for. Everything. And I think it's so important, like, even back on the mom topic, like, having a good relationship with their mom is so important, and I do feel so bad for the guys that don't have a mom figure or anything like that, but I think those are two big things. They have to, like, family oriented, that's a big one too, but at the end of the day, you have to look at how they're treating you,
Yes.
and never settle, ever, ever. That was my biggest thing, is I think I would settle, and be like, okay, I think I want this, and then I'd get a few months in, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what I love this.
Your gut check, your that Holy Spirit, God talking to you, don't push it down. You got to hear it, especially if it's early on, because really, the further you get, the harder it is going to be to break.
Absolutely, and I think God just plays a huge role, like, in everything. And I was even telling my friend about this the other day. It always gives me goosebumps, but my Mimi, her dad, my granddad Joe, he passed away not too long ago, and he never really, like, met any of my past relationships or anything like that, so he never got to, like, see me in a relationship. But when Tate came down to meet all my family, my Mimi, of course, loved him. She was over the moon. She was like, oh my gosh, I love him, like, I prayed for him for you, and all this stuff. And she told me before Tate left on his flight, she baked him oatmeal raisin cookies because those were his favorite, and she put, like, a little note in the bag, and he wouldn't let me read it. And he started to read it, and he's like, no, I have to read it on the plane because I'm gonna cry, like, I'm gonna get teary-eyed. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I finally got it out of my Mimi, and I was like, what did you write on that note? And she was like, well, I didn't say anything, but she was like, I was doing laundry the other day, and she said, she said, I heard Daddy's voice clear as day, so she picked a good one. She did good. And I, like, literally got goosebumps everywhere, because, like, Tate really is someone that I prayed for, and, like, he is so good to me, and he loves God more than me, and that's all I've ever wanted in a man.
Well, that is one of the questions I had for Tate today, was how important is God in a relationship to you? So that is something you definitely together is the center.
Oh, absolutely.
That's good. Because that will always be the magnet that will draw you to back
Oh,
together.
absolutely.
And I feel like if you have God and it's centered, then if you've done something wrong or he's done something wrong, then you'll always come back together, because God will lay it up on your heart, like, go apologize, you didn't do that
That's what I
right.
always tell myself, like, especially when we have, like, little disagreements, because I've noticed, and he really has truly made me a better person, because in my past, if I was mad, I would stay mad for 4 or 5 days, not talk to you, whatever. Tate literally will sit me down, we'll sit crisscross applesauce, and we're like, let's figure it out. And communication is so important, and he has truly instilled that in me.
And I think that's good for the younger girls, or any women. Communication is key for a man to communicate, and that's a green flag.
Yeah, and I feel like 9 times out of 10 it's always the woman trying to communicate to the man.
Yeah.
And Tate was always somebody, like, even from the beginning when we weren't even dating yet, it was like, hey, like, this is what's going on, like, this happened, blah, blah, blah. Like, he was always keeping me up to date. Like, we just always communicated, and I think that is such a big factor in a relationship, because everyone asks me, like, what's your biggest tip? And I'm like, communicate.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't communicate, you're not going to have anything at all. So, I mean.
Well, so I rocked the South, I guess, last year, which this is probably so old news for you guys, and you're like, I'm over it. But that was one thing I noticed. Like when I looked at the live or something he did with someone, where he talked about, he communicated with you throughout the night, and you guys knew, or you said something too about y'all communicated, so like you knew where he was, and then there was something like he was with an ex or whatever, and can you talk about that, or do you want to clear anything up about that?
I think that's where the whole I hate social media comes into play, because y'all only see what we want you to see. And honestly, you know, at the end of the day, I wasn't there. And that was part of my thing, was I'm not going to sit here and bump my gums about something that I wasn't there for. But I had multiple friends, him, loads of other people that I was on the phone with, like, they were FaceTiming me, and they're like, look who I ran into, blah, 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 and they ran into Tate, and they're showing me, and
like, the entire, like, he's constantly texting me. Like, he told me, he's like, I'm on the bus, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm about to get off. Like, it's not like I didn't know where he was at. People are trying to make it sound like he was lying to me about everything.
Mm-hmm.
He never lied to me about anything. He told me everything. And I think that's where it gets me, because they're like, well, you weren't there. And I'm like, well, you weren't either. So why are you trying to come for me when you weren't there either? And you're only hearing one side. You're not hearing both. And I think that's where sometimes I wish he would just straight up say, like, this is this, and leave it at that. But he is so out of the drama. Like, he just minds his business, which I love.
Probably because he's moved away a little bit too. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's never really been involved with drama. He's always stayed away from it, but he just, I love him for it, but sometimes you gotta put your foot down.
Do you feel like sometimes it's better in this space, in the social media space, to kind of address something and be done with it? Or do you feel like, I don't care, let people think what they want? Like, where do you fall in that?
I think it really depends on how you handle the situation, because you're always going to have that voice in the back of your head saying, I want to defend myself.
Yes.
Like, you see a meme comment and you're like, I want to reply back to them so bad. But that's what they want. They want you to reply back to that comment. And I'm not going to sit here and say I've never replied back to comments or got on live and opened my mouth. But at the end of the day, it's, what do you, like, your repercussions. Like, it's, at the end of the day, something's going to come back to bite you. So do you go ahead and defend yourself? But you also have to be careful with what you're saying. You don't want your words to get misconstrued or anything like that. So
many people think different things. Their filters are different.
Yeah.
They've been raised different.
Absolutely.
So whenever they hear it, they can hear something completely different and twisted, and it's not fair.
No.
But, and if you're not completely clarifying word for, you know.
And you shouldn't have to sit here and nitpick
No.
every single detail of your life and explain it to somebody.
No.
That's why I say you only see what we want you to see.
Yes.
And that's why I always just try to leave it at, because I cannot sit here and argue with anybody. I don't get paid for it.
Yeah.
So.
What do you think about having friendships with exes? Do you think that's okay, or do you think it's better not to?
Personally, I don't have any friendships with my exes, so I expect the same vice versa. I know he doesn't have any friendships either, but no, that's not really my cup of tea.
If he ran into someone, or if you ran into someone, the reason why I'm asking this is, how would he react if you were to run into an ex and he knew it was an ex, and say you're at a convenience store, you're pumping gas, and they go, hey, what's up? And you go, hey, what's up? And you move on. Like, is he going to freak out, or is he's going to get it? He seems like a guy that's just going to get it. He seems
He's
chill.
more of like a get it kind of guy.
Yeah.
And it's not like I would sit there and have an entire conversation with him and probably just say, oh, hey, how are you?
Right.
Good. And then leave it at that. But I don't think anybody would come up to me and say hi. Especially if I had Tate with me.
Yeah.
No. I would snitch. I'd be like, that's so-and-so. They better stay away from me.
So what if on the other end, because he's so outgoing and he seems very kind, if some ex came up to him and was like, hey, what's going on, and started a conversation, do you think he'd just turn and
You'd
walk
probably
away?
say hey and walk away.
Okay.
I know he would for sure.
I think there's something about that is so hot.
Oh, yeah.
If your man is, I've been married for 31 years, so
Good.
I'm telling you, like, my husband, he doesn't care if he's rude. And I think he knows that over time that he better be rude.
That's the thing, is I know Tate, like I said, he would go to the end of the earth and back for me. And he would defend me till the day he died, and vice versa. Like, and that's the thing that I think people don't realize, is like, he's not who he was made out to be on social media. And like, behind closed doors, if someone got to sit down on the couch with him for 5 minutes and just talk to him, you would fall in love with him.
Yeah.
Like, he is such a great guy. And I just hate that not everybody sees that.
Yeah. That's why I wish he was here right now.
I know.
So everybody could have, and I could have, because I just a little bit of watch, even though it was some drama and whatever, trying to figure out everything. The main thing was he was so outgoing. He was a little intimidating for my personality. He's a little intimidating because he is so out there, and you don't know. You're like, oh, what's he going to say?
Hot Mess Express.
And that he loved to eat. what do you feel like he has taught you? That was one thing I wanted to ask him. What has Lynnde taught you in this relationship? But what has he taught you about maybe yourself? And you said maybe coming out of your shell a little more.
I would say coming out of my shell, but he's also taught me a lot of patience. Because immediate gratification. If I want something, I want it now, and I want it done now. And he's taught me a lot of patience, communicating. That was a big one too. But I think overall, he's kind of chilled me out in a way. Like, old me, I probably would have popped off on everybody.
Yeah.
But seeing the way he handles things, I'm like, okay, maybe that's how I should start handling things. And honestly, he does handle things in a great way. Like, he's very calm, collected. He really doesn't get worked up. I've never seen him mad, ever. And I think he's kind of changed my whole dynamic and made me a lot more feminine in a way.
Yeah.
Is what I would say.
Good. That's good. You know you're in a good relationship when a female is changing in a great way. Because I always feel like, so in this generation, especially a lot of the girls are having to change the guys because they're a mess.
Yes. I'm telling you, Hot Mess Express, all of them.
They are a mess. Like
Toxic.
they don't. Yeah. And social media, and what about Snapchat? That's another thing. Do you still have Snapchat? Does he?
I have, but honestly, like I don't have my notifications on for any of my social media. Like I don't get on there. Like I have like 6 of my closest friends, and we have a streak.
Yeah.
And we send a picture every morning, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I know he doesn't get on Snap because not too long ago I sent him a Snap like 3 months ago, and it was still undelivered. I said, okay. So, but he doesn't really get on Snap either. Like every once in a while he'll get on there and like look at stories, but he doesn't even get on Snap. And then
I think too, if you're getting paid, I know Snapchat is supposed to be like one of the biggest paying social media platforms.
Start getting paid from it
Because they,
money.
I have heard that in the last month, how much bank people make on Snap. And so I get that part if you're on social media, but at the same time, and if you trust your mate.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It kind of comes down to trust too. Like I know he's not. That's what I'm saying.
And
Social media kind of gets in the way, but everybody can have their different opinions. But if this man was sitting here right now and I said unlock your phone, he'd give it to me, and he'd sit there not even break a sweat. Like there's no. Like we've even said, like we're never gonna go through each other's phones because we trust each other. We shouldn't ever have to. And the second that I feel like I have to go through your phone, I'm good.
Absolutely, we need to sit down and talk about it because something's up.
Yeah. We've never had anything to hide from each other. We've always been open and honest, and like I said, we communicate about everything. Like, I'll say, hey, I don't really like that you did this. Can we kind of talk about it? And then we get over it, and we're fine.
Yeah. So you've talked about a ring. Like, how old are you and how old's Tate?
I'm 22. I'll be 23 in November. He's gonna hate me. He'll be 30 next month.
Okay.
In May.
I think it's very important for. I talked with my last guest Haley about this. She's 25, and I'm like, you might need to find you a 30 or 30 plus year old guy because there's something about the maturity is about the same.
Like he's been through some stuff.
Yeah.
And he can guide me through it now.
And they're thinking more about marriage and children and a life with someone, and they're partying maybe on the back burner at this point.
We've always talked about that. To this day he brings it up, and he's like, I just don't want you to feel like you're wasting your 20s. But I've told him, like, my 20s to me is not clubs, it's not going out and drinking. We actually made a pact and we quit drinking. We're, I think, 75 days sober today, so we quit drinking.
Well, that's awesome.
And that's just, we just stay away from all that. And because he kind of tells me, like, I'm on your time frame. He's like, everybody my age is already married and having kids. He's like, so it's whenever you're ready. And I just always told him, like, I've never been a big party girl. Like, I've always been an introvert. I never really got into any of that. And I'm always ready.
I think bars and stuff can be really toxic for a relationship. So bad. If you want a messed up relationship, keep going to the bar and partying.
No shade to any couples that go and do that together. Like, if y'all do that,
Oh, I have shade. I'll say shade all day.
I
Like,
have shade.
it is going to mess your relationship up, and if it's messed up and you have drama and you have a cheating whatever, it's your own fault. Quit going out to that crap. I'm honest.
I mean,
about it. Like,
it's not really my thing. Last time we were in Fort Worth, we were with Bill and Scott for his concert, and we went out, and we both were just kind of like, you ready to go?
Yeah.
Because I was ready to go an hour ago.
Yeah.
And of course we had people with us, so we kind of had to thug it out, but
Yeah.
no, I mean, it's just not it. We woke up the next morning and I was like, for what I had to drink last night and me not being drunk or even buzzed, and me still waking up feeling sick, it's not worth it.
Not worth it.
So we just stopped drinking it, and we even said the other day, like, we thought when we were in Florida that we might like get a drink or something, but it just doesn't even appease to us. Like, I'll
You get
joke
to
and
a
say, you want to
point-
go grab a beer out of the fridge? And we're just like, no.
You get to a point you're just like, eh.
If I had a beer right now, I'd probably be drunk. That's how
Yeah.
bad it is.
Well, that's okay. I'm glad that you guys decided that as a couple.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like the closer you become with each other in those types of agreements that matter,
Mhm.
those are agreements that really
Yeah.
matter, that you'll go a long time in your relationship because of that, as
Yeah.
long as you keep those agreements up. Because
Yeah.
the power of agreement is very important. I think that's biblical.
Yeah.
The power of agreement with each other and things like that.
Another important thing to in relationships that people don't really like to talk about is compromise.
Mhm.
Compromise is a really big thing, and we've talked about that a lot. Just like futuristically, like, okay, say we do one day up and move to Florida.
Mhm.
Like, he gave up a lot. He sacrificed a lot when he moved for me. He moved 22 hours away from his family,
Mhm.
and just to be with me.
Yeah.
And so, like, I know, like, that's hard for him. Like, I told him, I said, it sucks. Like, I sat here and prayed for this man. I just didn't know he was going to be in Florida. So, we can kind of, you know, compromise. Like, well, we're going to do Thanksgiving here this year, and next year we'll go there. And compromise is a big thing.
Yeah. So, do you think it's important for you to be married and then look into have children, things like that?
Yeah.
Or,
I feel like a lot of people won't really like my stance on this, but I mean, I was always raised very old school. Like, I was kind of scared to tell my dad me and Tate were going to move in together.
Mhm.
Like, he just moved 22 hours for me, and you want me to, like, not live with him? Like, I've always been raised like that. Like, I was scared to tell my dad that. I was even scared for my dad to meet Tate, because I was like, good Lord, this man's 7 years older than me, and my dad's gonna flip a lid.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I like to go by the book. I know us living together probably isn't the most ideal situation, but it is what it is. He moved 22 hours for me, and I feel like that's my part of the compromise. I leave my parents, move in with him, but no, when it comes to everything else, I think we honestly need to stop normalizing having kids before marriage.
I do think it is very important. There is an alignment sometimes that, not sometimes, but like with God, of why I think marriage and then children and things like that, because it is so much easier on you in the long run, because you know you're with that person for the long haul. Not that marriage necessarily nowadays even seal the deal, because some people don't even take that as serious as it needs to be, but definitely I think you're right.
Anybody that's had kids before marriage, I have family that's had kids before marriage. I don't sit here and
It just makes
point
it
the
hard.
finger at them and say, well, God says that's not right. But, you know, I mean, we all live life differently, and I just choose to live it that way. And everyone always asks me, like, when are you going to take it and have a baby? And I'm like,
Let's get the ring.
let me get the ring first, and then we'll talk about it. But
So, wrapping up, is there anything that you'd like to say or give advice on to people that, because I'm doing this love series because it seems like so many people, young and old, in relationships have so much difficulty. And I really feel like a lot of it starts with understanding yourself and understanding your own worth and having a relationship with God.
I think love in general is just a learning process. Like, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now with Tate if it wasn't for my past relationships, because those showed me what I didn't want and what I did want. And I think, like, truthfully, it really does boil down to centering God. If you don't have a relationship with God first, you're not going to be able to have a relationship with somebody else. You've got to center that. And I think that is the biggest thing that people struggle with.
Because a lot of people, they believe in God, but they don't like truly follow in their faith. Like if you get in the Bible and you just read about relationships and things like that, you're gonna see verbatim what you should and shouldn't have in a relationship. And I think that is so important, especially like even just going back on what we were talking about, even the little things in real life, like communicating, trust. It sounds so cliche, but like those are all the things you have to have. And you have to trust your partner. Like even if in a past relationship you were constantly going through their phone, you can't want to first start with somebody and 3 months in you're going through their phone.
Yeah.
That's not how that works. And it's just a learning process. And I've learned so much just being with Tate in the short amount of time that we've been together. He has shown me so much. And you want to make sure you're with someone that's going to better you.
Yes.
Because if they're not bettering you, they gotta go.
Yes.
And he betters me.
And I love that. I think that in love is a learning thing. And I don't think you can say, I know it at this age.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Supporting your life and your dreams, and vice versa. You're supporting them and elevating them. Because I always felt like this, and I said this to a couple recently, that God intends for two people to come together, so then you're even more powerful than you are alone. And when you come together and you're together, how powerful that is, that you now have a bigger purpose, and that's what you're meant to do, is to have this greater purpose now as one.
Yeah. I'd be taking advice from you. I mean, you've been married 30 years, but no, especially like even like his grandparents and my grandparents, I always look at them and I'm like, they got married so young, and they just made it work.
Yep.
Like they're still so in love.
Yeah.
Like I look at my grandparents every day and I'm like, oh.
But back then was so much different.
Different.
And love is not just love.
Mhm.
It is sacrifice.
Absolutely.
And it is sometimes you give 10 and they have to give 90 or vice versa, and it's not always 50-50.
Well, I'm saying compromise is so big.
Yeah.
But the only other thing I was going to say about relationships, especially people that are already in a relationship, the way you talk to each other is so important. Like you were saying about affirmations. Months ago, me and Tate even said it. Well, he said it. He said, one word we're never going to say, ever, is the D word. And I was like, what? And he was like, divorce. And he was like, we're never going to speak it. He was like, because like, I'm never going to get divorced. So we don't say breakup. We don't say anything along those lines.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I'll joke. And then he's like, don't say that. I'm like, okay, never mind. But the way you talk to each other is so important.
Yes. And each person, even if you think they're a strong person, those days, you know, when they are maybe reserved or quiet, they need that affirmation that, what's going on, are you okay?
Yeah.
Those things to say, I'm here for you, is very important.
Absolutely.
But what you said about that divorce or breakup, that's exactly what I told Cam. There was some absolutes that my husband and I put in place, and one of them was, when you're in an argument or a fight, divorce, breaking off, whatever, is not an option. And when you take that off the table, then what happens is you go, we got to work it out. How quick are we going to work it out?
We don't even let anything escalate. Like, we've honestly never even raised our voices at each other. Like, we're, like I said, crisscross applesauce, let's get it figured out.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to talk about it and work through it, and we're not going to let it get to that point.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he would ever even raise his voice at me. He can't say mad at me
He
too.
seems like a really good guy.
He is.
And I wish you guys the best of luck
Thank you.
in your future and stuff. And if you do get married, I want an invite, please.
Oh, of course. Send out to everybody.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for coming
Thank you for having me.
hanging out with me and talking about your life and,
Yeah, have
love
fun.
and
Let's do it again.
teaching the audience a little bit about your love life and you guys' social media, but also just, you know, being open to sit down and share your heart with me. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having me.
Yes. Okay, well, guys, thank you. We'll see you again soon.